You're on.
Hello there, folks. How are we? So, welcome back. This is week 2 of who knows how many weeks of masterminds on Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This is currently being broadcast into the Think and Grow Rich Mastermind group, of which you are a member. So, what that means is that you are very welcome to lean into this conversation. Now, you can do it in the comments section on the live video on Facebook, or, which would be our preference if you choose to lean into it, is come and click the link and join right here on Zoom and have a chance to have your own contribution directly and live and recorded and disseminated around the world, starting with this Facebook group, of your contribution to this topic, because your voice is important. With that being said, my name is Lloyd. I'm a fan of Napoleon Hill, fan of Think and Grow Rich, and many of the other books that he wrote. I'm a fan of personal development. I've been learning it for some time. Got into personal development in my teens and then fell off the radar of personal development for about a decade. And about a decade ago, I leaned back into the space, heard of the book Think and Grow Rich, which was not on my radar at that time. I'm Irish. I live here in Ireland. We are a skeptical bunch, to say the least. Okay. Skepticism is like a religion here. So when I first heard the name of the book, I was a little resistant. We've also been colonized here, so our relationship to money is not amazing. Because we think it's related to those other people who colonize people, and that's how we view money, right? So there's a lot of blocks that I personally had to overcome in order to just pick up the book and read it. So thankfully I came across Bob Proctor, and I was invited to one of his top coaches seminars in Dublin, thankfully. And I remember looking at the program. It was a 12-module program to take 6 months with a coach. And I thought, if this isn't complete BS, this is exactly what I need. And 6 months later, my life was very, very different. So I was making 6 times what I was making at the time, 6 months prior, in terms of sales. I was in a sales job. And so things were going very well. So as a result of that, I bumped into a lot of people here on the call. And since that time, I've built a very strong relationship with the other gentleman who is hosting the call here, Mark Santos. Mark is Canadian. And we won't hold that against him, but he's Canadian, right? And he lives over there in Kamloops, and I'm over here in Ireland, and yet here we are having a mastermind right across the ocean. Okay, we've got lots of people on the call here that are chiming in from lots of different time zones. We get a chance to hear from everyone who's here on the call as well. The call is not about me or Mark. Let's be super clear on that. We're not presenting ourselves as the experts in any way, shape, or form. We're just curious. We're open-minded. We're welcoming. We're in the energy of collaboration. And we're eager to hear other people's perspectives. So aside from the intro, I hope to speak as little as possible on here this time, which, if anyone knows me, is pretty rare. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it across to Mark. Mark is an amazing man in so many ways, very talented, very competent, very accomplished. But more importantly, he has a huge heart for helping people. And I'm very confident, I'm very grateful, I should say, to call him my friend. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it to Mark. Mark, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Lloyd. I just really want to thank everybody for taking the time to be here today. As Lloyd mentioned, I'm on the west coast of Canada. And we started this group, I think it was about 3-4 years ago now. And we're all just fans of Napoleon Hill's work. We've been masterminding together for years. And we wanted to pull together other people that were also really passionate about this work, and not only apply it to our own lives, but learn and grow together and think and grow rich together. So today we're going to jump right into it because specifically we ran a little bit about 15 minutes behind, and I know Lloyd, you're on a tight timeline. I'm able to go a little bit longer for those of you who want to stay a little bit longer, but we're starting about 15, 20 minutes later than expected due to some technical issues. But I wanted to start with the mastermind principles and then dive right into it. But so I'll share my screen and then let's get going on that. If we could do a round robin like usual on the mastermind principles. And we'll start right here up at the top. And Mr. Chambers, you want to take the mic there, rock star, and start us out on this.
Absolutely. Thank you. I begin every mastermind meeting by reading the 7 mastermind principles. I release myself to the mastermind because I am strong when I have others to help me.
Wanda, do you want to go next?
I believe the combined intelligence of the mastermind creates a wisdom far beyond my own.
Beautiful. Wolfgang, go ahead.
I understand that I will more easily create positive results in my life when I'm open to looking at myself, my problems, and opportunities from another's point of view.
Excellent. Yanni, please go ahead.
I decide to release my desire totally in trust to the mastermind, and I am open to accepting new possibilities.
Tints.
My apologies, I don't know where it is.
You can't read it? You want me to zoom in a little bit?
I forgive.
I forgive myself for mistakes I have made. I also forgive others who have hurt me in the past so I can move into the future in a clean state.
Perfect. There. I ask the mastermind to hear what I really want, my goals, my dreams, my desires, and I hear my mastermind partners supporting me in my fulfillment.
I accept. I now relax and accept, believing that the working power of the mastermind will respond to my every need. I am grateful knowing this is so.
Excellent. Go ahead, Wanda.
Dedication and covenant. I now have a covenant in which it is agreed that the mastermind shall supply me with an abundance of all things necessary to live a success-filled and happy life.
Beautiful.
I dedicate myself to be of maximum service to the world and my fellow human beings, to live in a manner that will set the highest example for others to follow, and to remain an open channel of God's will.
I go forth with a spirit of enthusiasm, excitement, and expectancy.
Hoorah. That's great. Tins, would you read the first line of the mission statement?
Mission statement. A Noble Goldman International is a conscious, aware, and engaged global community of abundance and freedom creators.
Beautiful. Thank you. Our mission is to create 1 million millionaires who are free from the time for money paradigm. We focus on creating multiple streams of income through masterminding, team building, and the effective utilization of internet-based platforms.
The mastermind becomes an opportunity for self-mastery, where the self-transcendent shift from the me to the we to the us occurs. As congruence and engagement increases, the world's consciousness is then raised, one meaningful and inspired relationship at a time.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you all. And again, just for the sake of time, I just want to jump right into it because we are running a little bit behind today. And for those of you that weren't here last week, we started diving into the very beginning of Think and Grow Rich, and we were just pulling out specific paragraphs within the text so that we could discuss it. And we were specifically discussing this, which was all about purpose, persistency, and a burning desire to translate into riches or material objects, and riches being all forms of wealth, happiness, and abundance. So it's not just simply money, but whatever it is, health, wellness, etc. So before we go on, would anybody like to add anything or dive into something they may have reflected on or come up with as it relates to purpose, persistence, and a burning desire in your life? Does anybody like to add anything to that at all? Because I'd like to dive into persistence a little bit more. Wolfgang, go ahead.
Well, what comes to my mind is when I know where I'm going to with the definiteness of purpose, I'm actually only then able to communicate to other people what I need help with.
Yeah, great point. Right, that definitive of purpose is super, super important. Awesome. Anybody else have any thoughts on this before we proceed? No? Okay. Let's get into it then. So one of the things I wanted to highlight, which I think is a beautiful story in this book, and that is this 3 Feet from Gold story. I know all of you have read it already, and I'm just wondering, because it's so related, obviously, and I think Napoleon Hill highlights this right at the beginning of the book and the importance of persistence. So it's not just having a definitiveness of purpose, but it's also having the wherewithal to stick to it, right? To create a plan and stick to it. And persistence is such a huge one. So I'm curious if anybody has a 3 Feet from Gold story they would like to share. I'll start just to give you guys some time to think about it. And really just the importance of persistence. And I'd love to hear from all of you, maybe some lessons, something that you've experienced as it relates to persistence that you think might be of value to the mastermind here. So the thing I wanted to start with is, for those of you who don't know, I've masterminded with like literally thousands of people now over the last few years, and a whole range of expertise, starting from people that are just beginning their journey of self-transcendence to those that are extremely sophisticated and advanced in that topic. And one of the things that I find is a common denominator for the beginners, the people that are just starting out right at the very beginning, is they'll pick up a book like Think and Grow Rich or some other personal development book. They'll get inspired by that particular thing, whatever the book is, or whatever the video is, or whatever the knowledge is. They'll get inspired by it, and they'll get lit up. You'll see them. They just like light up like a Christmas tree. Or a lamp. They get just like super excited, and then they run out and they tell all the people that they love, their friends, their family, the people that are important to them in their life. And all of a sudden the knives come out and the dream killers start carving up. Who are you? What, you think you're just going to read some book, Think and Grow Rich, and you're going to succeed, right? Like, I think everybody's had that experience at one point or another. And I think this 3 Feet from Gold, that's your first experience with it, right? Because if you power through that and you don't allow your friends, family, whoever it is to kill your dream in that moment, then you're going to start your self-development journey. But if you allow them to kill you, if you fail to apply that persistence to that particular moment in time, who knows how long you're stuck in the water again, right? It might be a year will pass, 6 months, 10 years, 20 years, maybe never, right? Maybe you'll just give up. So I've witnessed that like literally hundreds of times now. And I'm just wondering if anybody has their own stories that they want to share, or a lesson related to the importance of making that committed decision and sticking to it. You can raise your hand or just speak up. Go ahead, Wolfgang.
Well, my personal experience is pretty much from your side as well, seeing people coming in and being excited, and the first adversity brings them into losing their faith and dropping out again. For me, actually, also really reading the book Think and Grow Rich and the practice with you guys here brought me to a place where I say, I go through never what. Because adversity can be really threatening and intense, like lack of contact or lack of finances. There can be all kinds of things coming up where we usually say, okay, it's not working, let's go another way. And I noticed actually there can come what wants. I will go through because I know that's a test.
Mhm.
And that is very, how I say, knowing that is very powerful because it happens anyway. And just this week, I had a connection to a very successful person, and I heard the story, and they all came basically from nothing. It was a group of 3 gentlemen, and they started 25 years ago together a business, and they all were in front of having no finances, and they did everything they needed to do to create it, to ask for money, to sell the last truck, to do everything to get started. And today they're multimillionaires, each of them. So I think it's an important, how is Napoleon Hill saying? Adversity is like coming before success. It is a necessity. It's not like it's a bad thing. It's like that's the way it works. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody who's done anything knows that's to be true. So beautiful. Thank you, Wolfgang. Would anybody else like to share? Wanda, did you want to add something?
Yeah, sure. I have many experiences, but I will share one that's fairly recent. And so it was the latter part of last year. And a client decided to go off and have someone else represent them. And I had already been paid, so I had to give the money back to the company I received it from. And I'm thinking, like, what am I going to do? This is like, we're approaching the beginning of November here. And I had no answer to that question, but I kept on going. And every day I took action and I called people and spoke with them about, let's just call it, potential possibilities and opportunities. And I just did that every day. And what happened is that I closed the largest deal to date of my career in financial services. And if I had quit, which I could have done, because I saw no way sort of out, or no way that I would be able to get through this. I was like, well, like having to pay back that money was a big hit. And because I persisted and held on to the idea of succeeding, that it was possible somehow, I closed the biggest deal to date of my career in financial services.
What a fantastic example of that. That's a beautiful example. That's literally 3 feet from gold. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Wanda. Anybody else want to share something, a story, an experience? Go ahead, Yanni, jump in there. I can see you're jumping at the bit.
Well, Well, for me, it's been lessons for sure, literally being 3 feet from gold. I remember 2 times I helped 2 groups of people started a business, and I was one of those people that did the grind work with them. But I got so desperate that I didn't see like I guess the earnings so fast enough, and I left as soon as I left, like a couple of months later, because I now I know that it kind of takes an average to 3 to 5 years for a business to actually give something back. So after I left, it was 2 3 years, and I left and they grew, right? And that happened to me twice. And so now I am understanding the importance of consistency with myself to do something for me. Maybe it was because I wasn't really into it, and I wasn't really, I guess, ready for that, or patience, and I've been working on that. So that happened to me twice, and now I see myself working towards something of myself that I started since 2021. It all has been in my mind, which will be so to make something online. And like you said, I do get excited about so many things, but one thing is being online, and one way or another I've been trying to figure that out, and finally this year I got myself to act upon it. And I know now that it's the consistency and the persistence to be able to get there, and I know I will. But those 2 groups of people was a big lesson for me, that right after I left, a couple of months later, I was like, go down. So I really felt this story when I read it. So that's me.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Yanni. Uh, what a great story as well. You know, it's just I've seen it. I've seen it just in you growing. I think the other thing too, I just wanted to highlight in this particular line is, the most common cause of failure is quitting when you experience that temporary defeat, right? And again, this is like right at the beginning of the book, he's just dropping all sorts of valuable lessons that if you just skim through it, you're going to miss that. And it's so hard to integrate that because you're dealing with the emotional regulation and the highs and the lows, and nobody wants to experience failure, right? But then if you reframe it as an opportunity to learn and grow, then temporary defeat just becomes, another lesson in the journey. So that's beautiful. Thank you, Yanni. Tins, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I think most important what we learn from failures that we really don't care what another people think, and we make stronger decisions for ourselves, and we know better what we want.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's great. That's wonderful. Mr. Chambers, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I can do. I was trying not to talk too much. So I had to resist from unmuting myself and jumping in. Yeah, there's so much. There's so much. I remember years ago, I was struggling to recreate myself, and I decided, let me try and pick something that's bigger than me. So I looked online at that time, sometime in July 2017, and I was looking to see what was the longest amount of time that somebody had gone live on Facebook in a row. And at the time, nobody had gone 500 days live. So I said, well, maybe I should do that then. In the beginning, I had just an idea, and I didn't really believe it was going to happen. But then when I got to the point at which I didn't even give the titles, day 1, day 2, until I got to about day 47, and I started backtracking and re-editing everything so that it made sense. And I ended up doing 500 days of Facebook Live in a row, during which time all sorts of things happened in the world, happened in my personal life and everything, and I made sure I did it every day. So definitely an example of persistence. It was by doing that I was seen by Edith, who introduced me to you, and this is why we're here, for starters. So certainly if I had stopped doing that at any point, I would have, in my view anyway, reduced the credibility of the words that I use. Not just because I don't particularly care what anyone else thinks, but I have to care what I think about. I have to be able to trust the words that I use in order to give myself direction and commands, in order to move in the direction that I, the driver of this experience we're in, gets to make the decisions. Because if I'm not making it, then someone else is. And why would I let someone else make my decisions for me? I did the same thing then with 100 days of swimming, which if you've ever been to Ireland, it's never warm in the sea. And I did it from January 1st for 100 days straight. And no, it wasn't pleasant, in case any of you are curious. But it was something that I committed to. And I think persistence is very important. So there's an article, don't remember right now who wrote it, but it's basically says that successful people, it's called the common denominator of success. Successful people make a habit out of doing things that unsuccessful people won't do. So in terms of persistence and how it relates to that, I think that you don't have to enjoy it every day, but if you recognize that the things that you're doing are habits of success, as you'll read in this book and Think and Grow Rich, then you simply make them a habit. And you don't think about your habits. They control 95% of what you do, and they're automatic. So why not? When you know that, you think, oh no, that's why all these things happen. You're like, but what about, oh great, I can just pull out one I don't like, stick in a new program, and we're off to the races. So I definitely think there's a lot of value in understanding this particular I think there's many times that I've stopped in the past, and I recognize if you do anything for 10 years with an absolute obsession, you will be successful. I mean, anything, doesn't even matter what it is. I remember watching people on Facebook at that time doing things, and I was like, I don't know if that's going to work. But all the ones who persisted got through eventually. And as they say, an overnight success takes 10 years to build up to. And, that's really true. And if any of you watching are a business owner, as I have built I'm not exactly a brick and mortar business, but that type of a strategy, right? It's a mobile pizzeria in a converted vintage horse box, right? Every single day, I have to employ this 3 feet from goal, because you have no idea who you're going to speak to next. You have no idea when the phone's going to ring, and you're going to have to be in the midst of a sales call to, sell people on your services. You have no idea if when things go completely pear-shaped, whether you're going to be in business the next day. You don't know anything. And you have to keep this level of focus and commitment and persistence in order to reach the goal. And something I mentioned last week, which keeps coming back up for me again, is never share big ideas with small minds, right? And then secondly, if somebody tells you that you are not successful or you're never going to make it, they are right every moment up until they are wrong. And only after you have persisted are you right. You might think you're right, you might feel you're right, you might be behaving as if you're right, but actually until you are in the external as well as the internal, everybody and what they have to say about you is objectively true, right? You don't have to take it on board, you don't have to internalize, you don't have to allow it to control your emotions, but for sure, objectively it's true, right? So this lesson is massively important, I think.
And that's real experience speaking there. I've witnessed it myself in you, Lloyd, in your journey. And I really love the fact, like, you made so many incredible points there, like the value of pain and the value of discomfort. And when you reframe it as a learning lesson, it just changes the entire, like you just reframe it and it just changes the entire dynamic. So when you hit those obstacles, it now becomes a game, something fun to get over rather than something that is emotionally draining. And I want to highlight here that every single person here on the call, maybe with the exception of Edit, would not be here if it wasn't for Mr. Chambers. We all met because you did that 500 days of Facebook Live, and that you were putting your passion and desire out into the world, and Edit connected with it and subsequently introduced both of us. And it's getting to know you has been a great pleasure and an honor myself, and going on that journey with you. One thing I wanted to highlight, just my own, one of my own challenges, where this overcoming temporary defeat, I think, is pretty common for everybody. And that is working out at the gym and your health and physical fitness. I mean, everybody has had that experience, I hope at least, where you've, attempted to learn, what your body needs in terms of food and nutrition, and there's so many vices in the world that you can put in there, alcohol, sugar, and all sorts of things that will take away from, or hurt you, even though they are lovely and they feel fantastic in the moment, whether it's a bucket of ice cream or one too many Guinnesses, there's a million vices out there that'll keep your routine at the gym, off track. And even getting to the gym or working out at home or whatever, that's another example of persistency, where you definitely can get the result. If you're not getting the result, it's only because you don't know one of the variables, whether it's food, health, or your exercise routine, or maybe there's intermittent fasting. Who knows what the issue is? There's a million different variables. But what makes it fun, at least for me, is reframing that as an opportunity to develop this skill of persistence, right? Because it takes consistent, persistent effort, and you can do it physically. You can see the result. You're going to get the benefits of it physically in terms of your health, but it's also just a really great way to learn this skill, right? Of overcoming temporary defeat, because everybody's cheated, everybody's made a mistake, I do it all the time. So I just think it's a great example of learning persistence and applying it to your life, and overcoming challenges, because there's a million different ways, a common thing is people like, oh, I try to get to the gym and then it never really works out, but then go for a walk. There's lots of other ways to get exercise, right? So whatever your challenges are, see them as challenges that are something that you're learning to overcome, and you're reframing it in your mind as an opportunity to overcome challenge. And then the best part is, if you make it fun, if you can find a way to make overcoming challenges and being persistent fun. Personally, I like music, so I'll just put on my headphones and I'll just be rocking away as I'm working out. But the point is whatever you need to do to make it fun and engaging and exciting and enthusiastic and inspiring, then, overcoming temporary defeat becomes insignificant, really, because it's now fun. It's only a big deal when you emotionally engage with it, and it's like, oh, I feel so defeated and all the rest of it. Like, forget all that. You're not defeated. It's just a lesson, right? So anyways, Wanda, I got inspired you to share something, then we'll go on.
Yeah. Well, it brings me to the book. Okay. And the fellow who was 3 feet from the goal, and how he learned from that adversity. And I know I have from my past situations. And I guess that's partly why I was able to do what I described earlier. So this fellow who was 3 feet from the gold and gave up and quit and sold all his equipment, and someone else reaped the benefit, and he got into life insurance, as the story goes. But because he had this experience and he was defeated that one time in such a significant way, he said, never is that going to happen again. Doesn't matter how many people say no to me, I'm like moving forward. And so he was able to develop that persistence from that experience. Like he learned that in a very significant way, a very meaningful and powerful way, that that's what's required.
Yeah.
And so he became I don't know, like a super duper insurance salesperson, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful, Wanda. Thank you. Yeah, it also reminds me of Acres of Diamonds, you know, that other great book, or story. But I personally have had this experience myself. And when you actually find your life purpose, right? When you actually find that thing that you are crazy passionate about, right? For me, it's technology related, but the point is that when you know what your purpose is and why you're here, how could you possibly quit? Like, what else are you doing? Right? What are you going to do tomorrow when you wake up in the morning? Right? Like, if you genuinely know, like, this lights me up, I get super excited about doing this thing, and I should be doing this passionate, burning desire, and then you quit. Like, you can't quit on that, because that is like, then you have no like reason to get out of bed in the morning. And I made that mistake. I, I took a defeat and I wasn't properly equipped. I took this temporary defeat right on the chin and said, oh, what's the point? And I'm like, how you can't. So I'm saying I've learned that lesson myself, Wanda, right? In that there's no point in quitting on your life purpose, because what else are you going to do? Wolfgang, you want to add one thing here and then we'll go on.
Yeah, I want to add on. There is a difference in I think I want something, or if it's a purpose. A life purpose is not something what I wish for, what I would like to do. A life purpose is a, whatever you want to call it, universe, spirit, God-given thing, which is something you need to fulfill. So this is not an option nor a choice. The question is, where is that desire coming from? Is it something because your neighbor has it? That's the reason why you want it? That's very weak. You will be defeated in no time. If the desire comes from an inside, for instance, I received my purpose in a mastermind. This was not a choice what I would like to do. A life purpose is something what you receive as a task to fulfill in your life, and there is no quitting. So the question is really, where is the wish coming from? Is it a thinking and a wishing and a wanting, or is it something you know you will succeed at? And that is the guy who had 3 feet from gold. They were going for gold because everybody went to California for the gold, and that it was really a very technical decision to go there. So actually his failing was pre-programmed because he had no interest in gold. He just wanted to become rich. And the guy who came afterwards did everything to actually find the gold in 3 feet. And afterwards, he found the desire to be really, really good. And even the desire never to fail again is a deep desire.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you're bringing up such an important topic in terms of knowing the difference between, you know, writing down a goal because you're competing with the Joneses next door versus taking the time to really find your life purpose. And I mean, I think that's I really want to caution not to like spend too much time trying to focus on your purpose, but continuously refine it while you're in that state of action, doing the other things you need to do. But when you do find it, when you find your ikigai, that thing, your reason for being, you know, which fulfills all your 6 human needs and all the rest of that stuff, how can you possibly quit on that? It like quitting becomes like a ludicrous statement, right? Because it's like, how could I possibly give up? That's like giving up on you, like why you're even alive. At least that's been my experience. I'm just looking at the time and I'm wondering if maybe we shouldn't talk about that, go back and talk about that definitiveness of purpose a little bit. Just because, actually, you know what? I think we'll go on here. Forget it. We'll go on. Mr. Chambers, did you want to add something? I know you're running short on time here.
Yeah, I was looking for the right quote from Henry David Thoreau. And he said, if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life that he has imagined, he will meet with success unexpected in common hours. Which comes up just while you were speaking there, because, you know, it's very easy if life has been challenging, which for most people, that's probably the case on some level, right? And, you know, we can compare our lives to people who have lives that are much more challenging and go, oh, what have I got to worry about? This person had much more to deal with. But that's not really the point, because life is very subjective. So it feels to us emotionally like it's a big thing, right? So then when we're asked, what is our reason for being? Our big, burning, hot, white hot desire. And then we're expected to sit down with a pen and paper and like figure it out, having never accessed that part of our mind, having maybe never connected with ourself, maybe with no connection to our higher self, no connection to our creator, or whatever way anyone watching this may view that. It's pretty difficult and can sometimes leave us stuck in, you know, analysis paralysis or whatever, you know, like the paradox of choice. There's so many different things I could choose. How am I supposed to choose? Maybe I'm not worthy to choose, and all this sort of self-image stuff that comes up. So the fact that we pick a direction and we go in that direction, and ideally, particularly, and this is why masterminds are great, find other people who want to go in the same general direction for similar reasons, and refine those relationships, and then get there. And we get there, the view is better, you know. So you might say, I want to climb a mountain. Great. You get to the top, you find a little plant. Nobody's ever found the plant before. And you go, oh, maybe this is what I want to do. Right. And in the process of going looking for like exotic plants around the world, you find some other thing that compels you. And eventually, like Wolfgang mentioned, seemingly from nowhere, although of course it's from somewhere, you know, our purpose becomes clear to us. But by going after something, it's, I believe, somewhat unlikely, at least less likely, I believe, at least, that it'll just come looking for you while you're distraught and stressed and not connected and things like that. So, you know, we kind of need to put ourselves in the right position for opportunity and for, you know, insight and inspiration to find us. One of the things I admire about Wolfgang, who has his hand up again, unless he's still up from earlier, but possibly just put it up, is that the best time, I think, to find inspiration or allow inspiration to find you is very early in the morning. And I don't know anybody who gets up earlier or more regularly at that time than Wolfgang. So Wolfgang, jump in there.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make a short note. I listened to you, Lloyd, and you said it's difficult to sit down with a pen and paper. I think it is difficult to do it the right way because there is a gentleman who actually conquered all his discoveries sitting in a black room alone with a paper and a pen until the idea came. It is possible, but it's very intensive because it's about what what's his name? The French mathematician in France in the 17th century. He said that all difficulties of people come from the inability of sitting alone in a room. So if we are capable of doing that, ideas come, and then it's about writing it down without, oh, I don't like that, or I would like to have it differently, to really follow that. But what I want to share is I really embrace having this field in the mastermind, where I found it so easily accessible by being guided by so many ideas and being in a space of having, how I say, in the mastermind, it was really easy to receive the vision. So that is what I really appreciate about what you created, Mark, and I'm so grateful for and what I'm so consistent about. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure and honor. Mr. Chambers. You're muted, buddy.
I am muted. Not anymore. So yeah, that's a good distinction, Wolfgang. And I guess that's a very good point. The sitting in receptivity is a very good way to be if you want to receive information. And there's a book called by Thomas Troward called Mental Science, where he talks about that, where prayer, and again, everybody in the world may have a different view on this, but let's imagine as a electronic switching station, you're sending a message on a frequency. Prayer is the message going out, and I can't remember what is contemplation. That's the word. Contemplation is you listening for the answer coming back. So sitting in the dark with a piece of paper and hearing and waiting for the information to come really is that receptivity, contemplation piece. But my experience with helping people begin this journey is that they're not in a position where they're capable of doing those things, typically, or there's too much chatter going on. And so I think that action is a great way of moving people, especially as a group, you know, like moving. Hey, let's try over there. What's over there? Look over there. Hey, look at that. Let's go. That looks interesting. And then allow people to feed off the collective positive energy of movement, of just movement, just kinetic energy. And for any of you ever hiked for a couple of days, yes, on the hike, there's all these challenges, and yes, you work collectively, but in the evening time, you're alone with your own thoughts, and it's quiet, and you're usually in the middle of nowhere or somewhere, depending on what way you look at it. And that's when the biggest insights come, often, just like Wolfgang was saying.
Yeah.
So that being said, though, I do need to go because I have to go. I have 2 small children that need to be said goodnight to. And I'm told I said I'd be home for dinner.
Well, thank
So,
you, Mr. Chambers.
I look
We'll
forward to
continue
seeing you all
on.
soon. Please do, yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
So I just wanted to highlight that it's really easy to get stuck in the thought world, especially when you're looking for definitiveness of purpose and you're looking for your depot burning desire. And I think taking the time to find those things is a form of action to a certain degree. But I also think it's important just to physically get out and do something, right? So whether that's physical exercise or you want to, spend quality time with your friends or family or spend time developing relationship, but doing things in the three-dimensional reality is important. It's so easy to get caught up in the emotional world and the thought world and not act, right? And I think action is critical to this entire process because you never really know until you've done it, right? So if you're looking for your definitiveness of purpose, you can reach out to anybody here on the call and they can get you signed up in the platform. There's a whole free exercise to do that. And persistence is just keep going, and this is the thing I love asking everybody, because I wish somebody would have asked me this question, really, which is, what is your burning hot desire? Like, how many, like, just by a show of hands here, how many people have experienced a burning hot desire for something, whether it's somebody, that you're got a crush on or something? Has everybody had that feeling of a burning hot desire? Everybody has, right? So what's your burning hot desire for you? Right? And that's a harder question to ask. And I wish somebody would have asked me, because I would have just like overthought it to death, but it's like, what are you super excited about? Right? And get crazy passionate. And like I said, you can join the platform, you can sign up for free. There's free exercises in there, one of which is to get this straightened out for yourself. But nonetheless, that is super, super critical. I also, just because we're running close to the top of the hour, I just want to give everybody a bit of a preview for next week to give you a chance to think. Okay. So obviously riches can be whatever you want it to be. Primarily, we're talking in terms of money here, like cash money, because everybody needs to know how that energy flows to and through their lives, right? So this one is more geared towards the money side of the equation, right? But I think this paragraph here is critical, which is every human being who reaches an age of understanding of the purpose of money wishes for it, right? Wishing will not bring riches, but desiring riches with a state of mind that becomes an obsession. Okay. And like, to me, that's super powerful, but I'll keep going. Then planning definitive ways and means to acquire riches, and backed those plans with persistence, which does not recognize failure. Think about that. Like, that is a really powerful paragraph right there, if you unpack it. And I'd love to do that with you all next week. But does anybody have any initial thoughts they'd love to share on that? What pops up for you?
Yeah, I find for myself, what's been helpful, especially recently, is whatever the amount of money is that's desired, thinking about, okay, well, how are you going, like, what are you going to do to acquire that money? But also thinking and imagining and visualizing what you're going to do with the money, like where you're going to live, whatever it is that you desire. Maybe you desire to travel, maybe you desire to contribute in some way financially, whatever it is. But to imagine doing that, living that new life, whatever that is. I was doing that for a while and I found it was really making a difference. And that's what's coming to me now, is to go back to that. So
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wanda, for sharing. Wolfgang, please go ahead.
I think it is very important to become very self-reflected and honest, and to see what is really behind. For instance, I have a deep desire for accountability, to be my word. And actually that could be anywhere and everywhere. So for me, the relationship to people stands on a much higher level of value than any material things. And this desire is so strong that, for instance, for me, times are very important. To be on time, to stop and to start things on time. So these things are very important for me. And well, I think there is a deep trust and reliability in it, where I see people feel comfortable to know what I can expect and also to know where are the limits. So these are big desires, big things for me, which are not wishes. These are some things where I can be very rigorous about it.
Mhm.
And having that said, I also will leave because I also have family. I want to be accountable. So thank you very much for masterminding today, and see you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here, Wolfgang.
Thank you.
Tins, please go ahead.
Yeah, my battery is also low. I wanted to add that for me, riches is not just money. Money just is a tool. But for me, it's just to live a best life, attract good people, and doing good for the planet, for people, having happy people around me, and creating more happiness. That's what riches for me.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah, I could not agree more. Well, thank you all for sharing, and thank you all for participating this week. And like I said, I just wanted to give you a bit of a preview so you had some time to think about it. I want to unpack this one because this is about where the rubber meets the road now, right? This is about what is your obsession? What are your definitive plans? Right? What are you like? What's going to keep you persistent? Right? And what are you going to how are you going to add value to the world? Right? To acquire those riches. So this starts the process of really unpacking that and applying it individually to all of our own experiences. But Wanda, I see your hand up. You wanted to add one more thing before we go?
Yeah, I just want to say something quickly about this. Like I was first introduced to this book about, I don't know, let's just say 35 years ago. And I was in real estate sales at the time. And this particular part of the book bothered me because I didn't like the focus on money. But what I recognized for myself about why it bothered me over time, like not right away, was my beliefs about money. That's what was getting in the way. My beliefs about myself in relation to money, like all of that stuff. That's what was causing me, sorry, excuse me, to feel uncomfortable about this particular piece in the book when he says, fix in your mind the exact amount you want and all of that. I was really uncomfortable with that. But I become more comfortable with it because for me, all of those things that I value that are not money related, having money makes that possible in more expansive ways. It's like the things that money can do. It's beautiful, you know. And then I began, like most recently in my life, to think of money as love. it changes everything. So I just wanted to touch on that because that may be true for other people as well when they read this particular section.
Absolutely. It's such a phenomenal, good point, Wanda. Thank you for bringing that up. Not only for this particular paragraph and this particular book, but I think what you just said is some really profound words of wisdom just in general from any book you pick up. If it's triggering you, what I've learned in the last, in my life at least, is that that's likely an indication that it's highlighting some subconscious block that you've got going on. And that visceral reaction, that negative visceral reaction, is the obstacle you're trying to overcome in whatever the subject matter is, right? So when you instantly reject it, that's pointing to a much that's like the tip of the iceberg. And there's a much larger iceberg underneath, and that's an opportunity for growth, right? And you can spend your whole life in that area of growth, or you can choose to take advantage of that opportunity and learn the lesson right then and there. And so what a beautiful example of that. So thank you for sharing that story, Wanda. And again, I just want to thank everybody for being here. I know this is only the second week we've done this, but we'll do it a lot more. And for everybody else that's part of the community out there, we'd love to invite you to come and participate. We'd love to hear your perspectives. I know there's a lot of experts out there on this book that are part of this community. So I'd love to invite you to come and join us next week, share your thoughts, put them in the comments, put it in the, share your comments, have a discussion. And I'd love to hear some about like your stories on any of these topics that have come up in the discussion today, whether it be on persistence, 3 feet from gold, your deep passionate desires. Like, please share your stories in the comments, and let's have a discussion about this so that we can all think and grow rich together. All right. So thank you all. Have an incredible week, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.